Hi guys, ShiggitayMedia here, and recently the method to Hackintosh an AMD system, whether you buy an AMD laptop or pre-built tower or what have you, within reason, given the parts are compatible, the method to Hackintosh an AMD system has come a long way and it's so much easier to do now. So here I'm running an AMD system running a really should be 3.8 gigahertz base clock, but it's a 3.8 gigahertz AMD Ryzen 5 3600X. And I've got 32 gigs of RAM in here and yada yada. So, I've seen people making videos on how to make a bootable USB stick for Mojave, but only using Windows as the method. For my channel here, I will show you how to do it on Windows, but for here, I am going to show you how to do it on macOS, and there are a few steps you have to do manually that the Windows script does automatically for you, but the result is the same, and it's great because you can actually run on AMD CPUs as if they were Intel, as you can see here. So let's get started here. First, you'll need, since we're doing it from the Mac, and we're not using that script I'll show you from corp.newt, in the second part of this video or another video, depending how long this video goes, the script from corp.newt actually downloads everything and applies everything to your USB stick across two different Windows batch files. Here is going to be a little bit different, but like I said, it's going to have the same result. So, first of all, you want to download a copy of macOS Mojave. I am logged in here to the Mac App Store. This is the difference. If you're doing it from an already established Hackintosh like mine, or from an actual Mac, you need to go to the Mac App Store to do this all legit and nice and clean. So up over here, let's search for Mojave, and we click on View and Get. This will bring up Software Update, and it'll take a few minutes to... Okay, this request is not available. That's a lie because it is. Let's try that again. Come on, machine. You can do it. And I'd be broadcasting my face with a face cam. Here we go. Or should you want to download macOS Mojave 10.14.6? Download, please. And depending on your internet connection, mine is pretty decent and pretty fast. Depending on your internet connection, this can take 10 minutes or it can take, an hour. So for me, it'll take about 6 minutes. But I'm not going to babble on for 4 to 6 minutes nonstop here. So I'll be back when this finishes downloading for the next step. Alright, so now that that's finished, let's move on to the next step. We no longer need the System Preferences Software Update preference pane, nor do we need macOS Mojave, the App Store page for Mojave. So as you can see, it automatically launched. I didn't get it on video, but it automatically launched the installer as if you're just going to install it on an actual Mac. That's how it's set up to behave. So let's get rid of this from the recent apps, and make sure you have a USB stick of at least 8 to 16 gigabytes. I have one here that's 64 gigabytes. This actually has some stuff on it. Let me delete that for you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go into Disk Utility. And well, do I need to go? Yeah, I'll go into Disk Utility for this demonstration. Do Command-Shift-U on the keyboard. Go to Disk Utility. And Disk Utility doesn't give two rats anythings about what it deletes. So once you delete something, it's gone. So be sure you know what you're deleting. So, okay, go to this little button here, the sidebar settings, I suppose, and say show all devices. And here it gives a detail of all the devices connected and running and whatever. So what you're looking for is your USB stick, like mine, which is a Kingston Data Traveler 3.0 media, and is a 62.02 usable gigabyte. Okay, so highlight it and say erase. And you want to make it GUID, I believe, and our process of making the installer on macOS will format it properly, but it just might as well give it a head start. And let's call it Mojave installer, and then click erase. Okay, let it do its thing. Create a partition map. Let's look at the details here, so we can keep up with its keeping up with the with the macOS install. And formatting, waiting for partitions to activate. I guess they activated. Formatting. And 64 gigabytes is way too big for this task, but I recently got this USB stick and it works well. It's fast enough and everything. Now it's mounting it. It became a 57 gigabyte disk and it's done. Our version is successful. Cool. Now, let's get out of here. If we come back into the Finder here, and you'll see that it's a clean 62-ish gigabyte, 57 gigabyte, whatever USB stick. Okay. Now, next step. I recommend on macOS, to make things a little easier, use something called TINU, TINU. And you can get TINU from, let's Google it actually, TINU macOS, okay? And you can get it from here. I'll leave the links to anything that I talk about that isn't obvious in the description down below. And what you want to do is go to releases, and this is the latest release, 2.1 public 60, and download tinu.zip. I've already done that, and I've extracted it and put it into my applications folder, which is why you see it in my dock. I put it in my dock, and you can see it running. So, this has two functions right now. This is still very much in beta, but what this does is it automates the command line method on macOS of making a bootable USB stick. So what we do here is create a bootable macOS installer, and like I said, a USB thumb drive and USB, because I believe it's an Italian, Pietro Caruso, who wrote this app, or is writing this app. He says a USB thumb drive of 8 gigs or higher is recommended, and you need to have a macOS installer app downloaded from the Mac App Store in the applications folder. So for example, ours is there. Let me show you what that looks like. Your applications folder is not going to be the same as mine. I've got apps you may or may not use, and I don't even use all of these on the daily basis, but here's what's going to be called upon through TINU. Okay? So after you do that, so let's recap. So you open TINU, then you click on create a bootable macOS installer. Okay? Then say proceed. And it's going to make you agree to a license agreement. So just say I have read, unless you want to read all this legal mumbo jumbo, of which will technically be breaking anyhow because we're breaking the user license agreement, the end user license agreement when installing on non-Apple hardware. Unless you want to read that, let's just say I agree and click agree. Okay, here is a crucial Here is a crucial moment. You need to select the USB stick, whatever you named it. I named ours for this video, Mojave installer. Any disk you select here will be wiped like somebody's memory. You don't want to do that unless you want to be self-destructive, but for the purpose of this video, make sure you select your USB stick when using TINU. So, click on Mojave installer, click next. It'll find the install macOS Mojave installer application. And you can even click open an app and look on a hard drive or in a different media source, a server, I suppose, and do it from there. But for simplicity's sake, this is in the Mac app, the application folder here on the storage device on this SSD. So click it and say next. And here's the summary. The volume and macOS installer app below will be used. Are you sure? If you go ahead, this app will erase the volume Mojave installer, so all the data on it will be lost and replaced with the bootable macOS installer. Bootable on actual Macs, but we'll get around that in a moment. If you are sure, continue at your own risk. And it's showing that this is going to restore and do stuff to this. Now I'm curious, what's under advanced options? I see. All right, just options. That's cool. All right, it's going to create a copy of TINU, so you can do this again if you have to. And that's cool. I have not used this app in a while, so I don't know what's possible, but all right. So let's do the default options. Oh, whoops, no. The default options and advanced is fine. So let's click done. We're not going to mess with the advanced options. I was just merely curious as to what those are. Apparently very soon, maybe this will be more Hackintosh friendly, or more of like a one-stop shop. Once we have the installer app, like the Corp Newt Windows script suite, I guess you can say. But now let's click on yes, I understand. And now it's going to ask, I think it's going to ask for your password at least a couple times. I think I got that wrong. Yay. Okay, I got it. And it's creating a bootable macOS installer. It may take 5 to 30 minutes. I'm going to wait here until the second time it wants the password. I think it does the password again. And we'll move on from there. But we're almost done here, guys. We have 2 more steps, and the macOS creation will be complete. I am unsure at this point if I want to show how to prove that it boots, but it will boot, and it'll look like the Windows method. I don't have a clean way of filming my screen to show that it boots, but please trust me, I wouldn't do you wrong here. This is just another way of making the bootable Hackintosh for AMD. The AMD part's coming after this. Bootable USB stick. If you want to see people doing this with the Windows side, which I'm also going to show you in another video, and they watch them boot up their systems with it, by all means, go ahead and do it. But like I said, this is merely showing you how to make the bootable USB stick with an alternate method on macOS. And when this finishes, actually, I'll show you what the app is calling up to make this happen. It's a command line command that I'll put down in the description if you want to do it like that, if you feel comfortable on the command line. The person, Pietro Caruso, that wrote this app, did this because he knows not everybody is comfortable on the command line, and it can be intimidating, and it's just text. It looks like, to most people, it looks like Microsoft DOS, which it is not, of course, but to them it looks like it if they're uninformed. And it takes not really practice, but it's not for the faint of heart, because if you do the wrong command on the command line, you are possibly screwed and you have to start all over, losing a lot of data. But that's besides the point here. I will let this finish, and once again, I'll be right back. Alright, guys, so I'm back, and as you can see, the bootable macOS installer created successfully. Again, this is assuming the purpose of this app was for the purpose of booting on an actual Mac. Now, I looked at the log as it was doing stuff, and it did indeed take just about a half an hour. So 1,749 seconds, apparently. And if you're doing this on the command line, here's what you would see, pretty much. And I believe this portion is what you'd see after you issue the command. Again, I'll put that command in the description. Or this is the command right here. In a terminal, you would type this out, and it would do exactly what TINU did, but you would be looking at text flowing and not a little graphical looking window. Now what's interesting is it tried to do that Clover EFI thing we looked at in advanced options, but it didn't know what to do with it. So either I didn't configure it right, I didn't intend to configure it at all, or it's just not implemented fully yet. And I apologize for the barking. We have an almost 9-month-old puppy in the other room, and he's quite vocal, and just thought you should know that. Anyway, so this is done. Let's close that, and let's quit. And now, if we look at our USB stick, it used to say Mojave installer. That was just like a makeshift, label, so we know which USB drive, which storage device to manipulate there. So let's click on it and look at that. So I think, what's the readme.txt? Okay, the readme.txt is the TINU readme.txt and a copy of TINU. Okay, so here's the install macOS Mojave, installer app. If I was to double click it right now, it would bring this up, and it would go through the installation of Mojave in a regular circumstance. Okay, so that's done. Now what we need to do is download something called Clover Configurator. Okay? And so let's go back to Safari here, and let's search for Clover. Okay, Clover Co. Actually, no, not from that site. Clover Configurator. Alright, so I was trying to do this off the top of my head, and I recommend to, as much as I don't want to say this, not go by what I say here, because I later tested the bootability of the USB device after I was finished with the video, and I forgot a couple things. So to make your life easier, I am going to include a link to my EFI folder for my working system. It's the default config file and everything else that makes my system tick, and it should work for you. I encourage you to tweak it and look up what to do to make it work for your system if you're so inclined. But take whatever I say here after I download Clover Configurator and start adding files to the EFI partition, etc., with a grain of salt. Because I tried to do it off the top of my head, I tried to get it to work, and I noticed, oh, I'm missing a couple things. So just keep that in mind when you're watching the rest of this video. And now, back to the video. Interesting. So here is Clover Configurator, okay? Clover is the bootloader that's going to be used to launch and run a Hackintosh, and in this case, an AMD-based Hackintosh, okay? So what we want to do is mount the EFI partition, on install macOS Mojave. Okay, that's right here. Say mount partition. It's gonna want your password. Okay, of course I get my password wrong again on this account. I actually made a new user account for this to keep it simple and everything, and generic and not non-busy. Okay, so it is now mounted, and right now there's nothing on that partition because in a regular circumstance when you're using TINU, it's not needed, right? So now what we can do, that wasn't really necessary at this point, but I wanted to show you that you can do that, and it's actually very handy for the future when you do this again for another system or for a friend or whatever. So go to install/update Clover and say check now. So the latest stable version is 5070, but the beta, which I'm running right now while making this video on my AMD Hackintosh, remember here are the specs. I don't need to show, but I will anyway. Right? This is my AMD Hackintosh running live here. 5089 is the beta version, right? So I'm running it, it runs fine. You don't have to run the beta version, but for the sake of this demonstration, I will. Not like you'll see it running, because like I said, I don't have an easy way to record the USB drive booting up and stuff. Others have made videos of that on YouTube already. So this is telling us it's going to install something, okay. So let's continue. And by default, this is going to install to my currently booted device. We don't want that because I already have it here. Okay, so let's change the install location and go to install macOS Mojave and say continue. Now, if you go to customize, okay, it's already set up because it came from Clover Configurator. How to do that? Okay, now what we need to do is, what's the recommended drivers? Right, okay. We want this and HFS Plus, all right. Okay, so let's say install, again, your password. And it's going to take a moment to install. I have a very modern system, so it won't take too long to install. And I started to say earlier that I would use my webcam to show you my face cam, my big old face, but behind me, my room is a freaking mess, and I'd rather not show that. And it's easier to just talk, and you can see my screen without having to see my disaster area of a room. Future videos, though, you'll be able to see a nice setup behind me. But right now, I prefer not to show it. And it's finishing up here. And I got a notification on my phone. Someone's live on Twitch. I could care less right now. So it's taking its time to install here. Less than a minute, what, Martian time? Come on, you thing, you can do this. Writing package receipts. And there you go. Let's say close. But this would be the point where you restart, right? No. Also with Clover Configurator, this is one way to do it. You go to Kex Installer, and what you need to get is Lilu, Whatevergreen, Apple ALC, Fake SMC, the difference with the Windows method from Corp Newt, and here is that Fake SMC is there already after you do that method and run through that method, all right? So let's actually change the OS version here to 10.14. 10.14 or other. 10.15 is going to be Catalina, but that's not out to the public yet. It's out in October, and it's not really Hackintoshable quite yet. So ignore that. So you can do 10.14 or other. For this video, I'll do 10.14. And it's going to download and install the checked Kext files. And on AMD, I would not do any of these sensors because in my experience, these are hardware sensors for temperature and video card temperature and activity and whatever else. This is really meant for Intel systems, like a Core i7 or a Core i9 or Core i5 or a Core i3. So let's just do install, and it'll install the just regular fake SMC, which makes it run. Without fake SMC, there's no Hackintosh, as many people have said in their videos. All right, so there's that. Now, let's go to install drivers. The drivers we want, the UEFI drivers we want, are APFS driver loader. Let's see, Aptio memory fix, and one more. I forget. I'll know it when I see it. I don't remember off the top of my head. HFS Plus, I guess. Yeah, that'll work. That should work. All right, and I'm just scroll backwards this way, make sure there isn't anything else here for the Aptio. Okay, so the Aptio memory fix, right? You don't want to use a lot different Aptio drivers. You want to just use one. Yeah. Do not use with other Aptio fixed together. So choose one. I even have had good luck with Aptio memory fix. And also you say download. Social media is going crazy in my phone, like Reddit and other things. All right, anyway. So that's all downloaded. Here's the progress here. If you scroll through, you'll see anything with a green dot under installed means, guess what? It's installed. And, all right, there you go. Now, we are almost done here. I saved a few steps for you guys, but what you need to do now is go to a certain website and download a very small file, okay? And so, let's go to amd-osx.com. All right, don't switch, modify, right? So what we need is a configuration file for Clover. So it's a patch, it's a kernel. What it does is it patches the kernel to think it's running, to patch the kernel to make it run on AMD. Enables macOS to run on AMD CPUs on the fly, which is freaking amazing. And I don't know how he was able to do this. It's so cool, right? Okay, so you need to choose the right configuration file, .config file for your type of AMD processor. So I'm running on a Ryzen generation processor, so I'm going to do 17H. And I'm going to right click or control click and download linked file. It's a tiny file, so it looks like it didn't download, but it did. Actually, wait a minute. Why did it give it? Okay, you know what? That's not the way to do it. I apologize. So go here. It'll load up. And okay, I'm a little bit confused now. Let's see. To download this dumb file, you can now go to RAW. This will probably get edited out. Yay. To download. Okay. So I was clicking around and I should have remembered what to do here. You come here to clone or download. Let's say download zip. Okay. And in the downloads folder here it is. And what you want is the config file for 17H. Now, if you hold on the command key and click, it brings up the EFI folder we talked about before in a different window, EFI partition. In EFI, and then Clover, okay? And here are the three essential drivers we put in. The text files under 10.14. They're all over here. Oh, and I almost forgot, actually. You need to have a network driver if we're using the Clover text inject method, which is a more modern way of Hackintoshing. So let's load this guy back up. And let's go to Kext installer. And I might have to actually get this Kext off the internet directly because I don't know if it's here. And it doesn't look like it is. All right. So what we need to do is get a network driver, a network Kext. So if you have a Realtek Ethernet card, which most motherboards do, Realtek 8111 Kext. Let's search that. RehabMan. Which one's more up to date? Let's see. Miezes. Last month. Okay, this is a more up to date one. Okay. OS X open source driver for the Realtek RTL 8111 or 8168 family. All right. So I'll also go here and download the zip. Okay. Let's make a new Finder window. Go to downloads. Go in here, and we want the actual text file, not the source files, which is what this seems to be. Okay, no, we don't want that. Okay, where is, you know what? I jumped the gun. We need to go to releases and go to the version 222 here. Version requires version 10.12 or newer, of which we do have. Let's download that instead of the other one. Okay, so is this the one we don't want? Yes. This is the source code, and if you are already an established developer, you can even compile that if you want to. But for the sake of this video, I'm assuming you are a somewhat novice at this. So what you need to do is take that, and let's see. Do I still have the EFI folder open? I do now. Okay, EFI partition, EFI, Clover, and Kex, and 10.14. And let's copy this in here. Okay, now that's ready. And finally, for this method, what you need to do is, first of all, let me kill that off. Let's go to downloads, AMD Vanilla Master. Vanilla means you're not altering anything, because there have been ways in the past to alter the macOS 10 installer to force it to install on stuff. No, that is not supported. And phone, you can be quiet, please. That is not supported anymore at all. And you know, you can install and run unadulterated macOS, and it's so wonderful. But anyway, so here's the configuration file we need. So let's go to the EFI folder. Okay, so here's where the EFI file is going to go. I'm going quite quickly here, but you want to go to the mounted EFI partition on the left, and whatever you see there, just copy over the EFI folder that I've included with everything working, everything intact for you to use. Again, like I said earlier, I tried to do this on the fly, off the top of my head, and doing it from the perspective of directly from macOS instead of from Windows with all the script stuff that does everything for you. So I missed a few things, like I said earlier, but you want to go to the EFI partition that's mounted, and you need to just copy over the EFI folder that I'm going to provide for you guys in the description below. And yeah, once again, back to the regularly scheduled video. That has been how to create a macOS bootable USB stick for AMD systems, and it works. And thanks very much for watching. All links and other things will be in the description down below. Thanks very much for watching. Like, comment, favorite, subscribe, and share if you enjoy my content. And have yourselves, for me right now, it's nighttime, so have yourselves a great night, and take care. In my next video, I'll be showing you how to actually do the Windows side method, which is really, like I said earlier, just running two different Windows batch files that automates this process greatly and actually does everything correctly. So thanks once again for watching, and have a great day, or night, or have a great one.